Hello, everyone. Happy Good Friday. It's Stephanie with Big Dog Mom. Hey, all right. So I have two dogs here that are a little unsettled at the moment. So you'll have to forgive me for a little bit of disheveledness. I don't even think that's a word. All right. So it's Stephanie with Big Dog Mom, and we are here for our weekly live stream. So thank you all for coming. And if you're here on the replay, thank you so much for joining. So today we have a really, I think, going to be very interactive. So what I will tell you on the outset is that be prepared to get up, and we are going to get moving today. So with that being said, our topic of today is long dog nails. So essentially, the blog post this week focused on, what are some of the consequences of dog nails that are too long? And so what I really wanted to do was just focus on giving you kind of a rundown of what some of the possible consequences are. And it wasn't limited to what I said in the blog post, but the link to the blog post is in the description of this video. And then in addition to kind of reading through what some of those consequences are, so I broke them into a few different categories. So orthopedic consequences as well as postural consequences. So in terms of the dog's posture. And then I also talked about my favorite topic, which is the aesthetic of dog nails and how long dog nails, I feel like, just ruin an absolutely perfect paw, and it's an unnecessary thing. So nonetheless, so that was what I focused on in the blog post. The link to that you see up here, it's bigdogmom.com/quick. And that is a guide that is really A to Z, everything you need to know about the dog nail quick, because I know that many of the people in the Big Dog Mom community really fear the quick, and that's one of the biggest sources of angst when it comes to cutting nails. And so I really wanted to develop a resource that would help you with that. So it's not only kind of giving you the ins and outs of what it is, but also some tips and tricks and steps on how you can avoid hitting it. So avoid the whole issue. And then lastly, what you should do if you do hit it. So, and then there's a process map that kind of walks you through step 1, step 2. And so my tips on how to get your dog's nails short and healthy while avoiding the quick the whole time. So I hope you grab that. It's, again, bigdogmom.com/quick. So, okay. So for those of you that are here, thank you so much for joining. If you could just pop in the comments below that you're here. I would love to I just want to make sure, I always want to make sure that I'm seeing everything properly. So if you don't mind doing that, that would be awesome. And like I said, today's session is going to be very interactive. So at some point here in the very near future, I'm going to ask you to get up, and then you're going to do some exercises with me. So don't be scared. It's going to be super fun and super easy. Everyone can do it. Okay. So let's talk about just the two big bucket items. Happy Friday, Lynn. Thanks so much for joining. Okay. So the two quick bucket items, and as I said, the blog post covers this, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, quite honestly, about each of these consequences, but I will just say, when we talk about long nails, so number one, how do we define what long is? And essentially I have my preference and other people have their preference. So you have all seen pictures of my dog's nails. Sully's nails are longer than Junior's nails, but his nails are all black. So they appear longer than Junior's because Junior's aren't all black. So and that's a fault, but we're not going to talk about that. But nonetheless, so how long is too long, and what is the proper length? I think, and I didn't really address this too much in the blog post because it is somewhat subjective. The foundational understanding is that your dog's nails should not hit the floor when they're standing. And so we'll talk about the reasons why that is, and I discussed in great detail in the blog post why that is. But that as a general rule, like if you're thinking, so how long is too long? That's what I would say. If your dog's nails, when they're standing with their paws flat on the ground and it's a level surface, if your dog's nails touch the ground, they're too long. But I would go on to say that if they're just barely not touching the ground, I think they're still too long. I really do. There's no reason to have nails that long, and I'll leave it at that. I think, if you have any questions about that, certainly let me know, and I can share, more detail about that. But we'll leave it at that. So the orthopedic consequences, in the blog post, I broke that out into a few different things. So not only pain, so pain being the first thing, when you think about what's happening, if a dog's paw, here, let me just see if I can illustrate with Sally. Okay, so I'm going to be off camera, but I want to show you. Hopefully you can see this. Now I'm realizing the light is not terrific. But if you have a dog's paw and the nails are hitting the ground, what's essentially happening is that nail is going up into the nail bed, is pushing constantly into the dog's paw, causing pain. That's not comfortable for dogs. And so they are doing that with every movement, every day, all the time. And so that's the first part of kind of the orthopedic consequences. So naturally what happens when your dog is having pain is that then they have to compensate their movement. I give the example in the blog post about, if you had a rock in your shoe and how that would feel. And essentially what we would do is we would change our movement. We would change our balance in order to avoid our foot hitting that rock constantly. And so that's essentially what our dogs are doing when they're walking. So pain is the first thing. Movement is the second thing, and I just kind of talked about that they would have to change in a very unbalanced way their movement. Injury. So when you are doing that, no, Junior. Oh, I left the bathroom door open. Now he escaped. Here, Sally, come here. So come. Come here. We have such obedient dogs here. So the injury. So if you think about what happens. Here, sit down. So think about running with a rock in your shoe. Sally, here, sit. Oh, okay, lay down. You would have to compensate your movement, right? You would essentially be unbalanced on your feet. So I'm imagining, a long jog, right? So I'm running a few miles and having to change the angle of my foot, even just slightly. And how that would put pressure on different parts of my leg, potentially causing injury. And that is what happens. So injury as it relates to not only the lack of balance, but also injury to the actual nail. So if it snags on something, which is very common, if it curls and punctures and touches the pad, so injures the pad of the foot, that's also very common. And then infection. And that is really just as a result of some of those injuries that could result. So longer nails are going to be more prone to infection, which can potentially be very dangerous for a dog. So I'll leave it at that. I went into a lot more detail in the blog post. But I wanted to kind of chat about that really quick. So what questions do you guys have about that? I mean, just shoot them in the comments if you have any questions about that or any thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts. The postural consequences are really as it relates to, so if you imagine the way a dog is positioning his paws. So essentially what happens is if the nails are hitting the ground, what dogs feel is that they're going uphill. So naturally, just by virtue of that nail hitting the floor when the dog is standing, they naturally feel like they are going uphill when they're not. And so it alters the balance, the entire posture of the dog. And so, again, in the blog post, I go into a ton more detail about that. But I thought it was an interesting point that I had never really considered, quite honestly. When I kind of started down this road of really focusing on dog nails, not only for the Big Dog Mom blog, but also just personally focused on, how to get a dog to love having his nails done and why that's important and all of that. So, but as I went down that road and studied more, it was an interesting thing that I thought I would offer you guys. I think we talk a lot about the imbalance and all of that stuff, but the posture part of it and why I think is a really interesting concept that I would share. I think that's an important thing to share with your friends for sure, because I know we all have friends with dogs with nails that are too long. So if you're not somebody that's struggling, I'm sure you have a friend who is. So, but let's get to the interactive part of this little Facebook Live. So what we're going to do, and I want, so for those of you that are here, I really want you to take part. And then I'm going to ask you what you think at each step. So let's get started. And I have 2 dogs that are now like MIA. Sully has totally conked out. As I said, I think the last time, I swear they hear me start yapping for like a minute and then they just go to sleep. So I don't know. Anyway, I'll try not to be offended. But this is what we're going to do. So, and I call it push-up paws. And this is something that I haven't seen anybody else do this, but as I was thinking about, okay, putting myself in my dog's paws, for lack of a better way to describe it, like how do I think it would make me feel if my nails were so long and I was having to walk on them? And so what I did was kind of think through, okay, so how could I communicate this to you? Because I think we see and we understand logically, right? The consequences. I think we can all understand, okay, yeah, the dog has to twist his paw a certain way and that causes an imbalance and that's not good. I think we all understand that logically. But I don't know that we all have a true appreciation for what's actually happening. So there's no better way, I feel, to give you that sense than to show you what I basically kind of came up with, and it may not be perfect, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. So here's the first step. This is what we're going to do. So what I want you to do is, and I'm going to show you, and I want you to do it on your own. So get to a place where you have, a carpeted area, a little rug. So I'm very specifically doing this up here because we have tile downstairs. So, what I want you to do is get to a semi-soft surface, and we're going to talk about this, the whole idea of a soft surface here in just a minute. But get to a soft surface, and then what I want you to do is sit or kind of get in the position like you're going to do a push-up. And do a push-up with your knees down. So you're going to kind of put yourself in like a square or rectangle, and with your hands shoulder width apart. And so I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to explain, and then we'll do a couple of different steps. So for those that are just joining, you missed like all of my yapping at the beginning, but I want you to get busy. So get to a spot where you are in a position, a place where you have a soft surface. So a rug, carpet, something to that effect. So I have a bunch of people popping on. So make sure you guys get to a spot where there's a soft surface. And this is what you're going to do. Okay. And I'm going to try to do this with the camera so you can see. Okay, so Lynn, so don't do it now, but watch this and then do it when you get home, because you will be fascinated by what happens, how it feels. So just pay attention and then do this when you get home. Okay, so what I want you to do, and I'm going to change the angle to the camera here in just a second, but I just want to show you the position. So what I want you to do is just go like this. So your hands will be equal distant apart, just right underneath your shoulders, exactly perpendicular to the ground. Okay? So pretend like normally you would do a push-up like that, right? So we're not actually going to do any push-ups. We're just going to position ourselves just like this. Okay. So I'm going to change the angle of this so you can see my hands, because this is the oh, hello. You want to see this? Okay. Thank you for coming. So we have treats for coming in here. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do, let me just pull this down. So what I want you to do is start and have your hands shoulder width apart. You didn't eat this, Junior. Okay. So the first step is to do just what I'm doing. So see how my hands, okay, hold on. Dog in the way. Junior, Jojo, over here, love. Hey, come on, stop looking silly. Come on, scoot, 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 scoot. Okay, so what you're going to do is have your hands just like this. So hands underneath your shoulders, exactly perpendicular. So feel what that feels like. So essentially, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. So if you're doing this with me, I want you to tell me how this feels. Where do you feel the pressure in your hand or in your arm. If you can describe for me, I know, Lynn, he's out of control. He doesn't come when I call him, and then he comes and gets in the way. So, okay, so what I want to know is, how does this feel? Where do you feel the majority of the pressure? Okay, so think in your mind or comment in the comments. So if you're doing this with me, I want to hear what you think, okay? Then the second step is to go like this. So see what I just did? So now I'm up on my, kind of the flat part of my knuckles. And again, I'm exactly perpendicular under my shoulders. So I want you to tell me the difference between this and this. Okay? And then the next step, so you might want to do this a few times. Let me just step back before I move on. So do this a few times. Really kind of position yourself, maybe move a little bit and feel where does the majority of the pressure go when you're in this position? And even if you kind of move around, how does that feel compared to doing the exact same thing when you're like this? Okay? And I'm a little bit like crooked, it looks like on the camera, so I apologize. But, okay, so then the next step is to go like this. So get up on your fingers. And again, tell me how that feels. So when you go from this to this to this, and move just a little bit, move your body just a tiny bit, even bend your elbows to get a sense of how this is different depending upon your movement, okay? So I'm going to boil this down in just a second, but is anybody, so maybe I'm just talking to myself. That could be. What I want to know is what you think. So I'm gonna essentially boil it down here in just a minute. But comment so tell me did you try it, and then what you think. And so maybe tell me, let's do it simple. So maybe just tell me in the comments which one felt the most balanced to you. Which one was the most difficult? So let's start there. So if you just did what I just did, so those three things, so you position yourself with your hands flat, on your knuckles, and then on your fingertips. So which one was the easiest and felt the most comfortable to you? So maybe tell me that in the comments. So what I think is when you think about when your hands are like this is mimicking a dog with long nails that has a splayed foot now. So, right, a flattened foot, because what happens when the nails are so long is that then the toenails spread apart. It flattens. I can't do this on camera for whatever reason. Okay, so you have a paw, and then you have nails that are too long. And so what happens is that paw ends up splaying out, flattening out, and the toes then to start to spread out. Okay, so if anybody has ever seen a dog, I have a picture of one in the blog post. That's basically what happens. So when we are standing like this, when we're doing push-up position with our hands like this, what happens, and the same thing happens with a dog with splayed feet, is that the majority of pressure is in their leg. It goes right here to the base of their wrist area. So the base of their foot. It's not across the pads of their feet. And so think about how that changes and would potentially put a dog at risk for injury. So that, I think, is really important. And when you do this yourself, in my opinion, it was striking how different it felt. So then you compare this to this when you're up on your fingers, and that's essentially the way dogs feel when there's constant pressure, they're always feeling the nail on the ground, and that's essentially what that feels like. So if you could imagine this on your feet and having to walk around like that, and how uncomfortable you would feel, how it would put you at risk for injury as well, for example, but that was the most obvious, yeah, this is not right and it's not comfortable, at all. And I could totally see where that would put me at risk, is if I was walking like that. But I thought the interesting part is when you're up on your knuckles, feeling the difference between how the weight is balanced across your hand. So across all of your knuckles, it's a balanced weight across all that entire space on the ground. And so, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you feel like you could tell the difference between those kind of three positions and how that might correlate into long dog nails, and how dogs would be feeling if their nails are too long. So I would love to hear your thoughts. I felt like that demonstration, again, just doing kind of your hands flat and then your hands with a knuckle, so just kind of flat on the knuckles, so you're just positioning yourself so that this entire area is touching the ground. So again, mimicking short nails where the paw, I have no paw to show you here. Maybe I do. Hold on. We got a dog that's like totally dead to the world. So let's see. I don't know if you can see this, but essentially, you would have a paw. The only thing touching the ground when Sully walks are the pads of his paw. So he doesn't have any nails that touch the ground. So I hope that was informative and helpful. Chat in the comments if you have any questions about that. I do think that sharing this if you felt like, so when you do the demonstration yourself and just when you're by yourself. So what I did when I kind of I had like this epiphany where I'm like, okay, so I went to everybody in my family and I said, try this. So get to a carpeted surface and let's try it. So tell me and describe for me how this feels different. And so I had like my 9-year-old son and my 12-year-old daughter and my husband do the same thing. And it was interesting because they all kind of said the same thing, which is this was more comfortable and this put a lot of pressure on they could feel the pressure. And the weight being imbalanced on this part of their hand. And then of course this was an obvious one. So, I thought that was helpful. You guys you let me know what additional questions you have. Again, if you are somebody who, is struggling with your dog's nails being too long, and I think part of the reason, I know the part of the reason is that people fear the quick. And that is understandable. It's never fun to see your dog bleed or because it bleeds and it's painful. It can be painful to a dog. So I know it's a source of a lot of angst and frustration and worry. So what I would say is grab the bigdogmom.com/quick if you want more information about the quick and some tips on how to avoid hitting it. And then, like I said, what to do if you do. It's a great guide. It's like 5 pages long with a flow chart and everything. So I feel like it would be helpful. But you let me know what additional information and stuff that you guys need. And then I would ask you to share this with a friend. So I called it the push-up pause. If you do this at home and you had the same sort of feeling and epiphany that I did, and maybe it's just me, so I'm willing to accept that could be the case. But what I would say is if you have the same kind of feeling like an aha moment, the way I did when I kind of came up with this idea to show you how it would feel if your dog's nails are too long, share this with a friend. If you have a friend, and no offense and no judgment, because 99% of dog owners out there have dog nails that are too long, I would say. I mean, I rarely see really beautiful paws, so, but I'm kind of a nail snob, so maybe I should say 90%. That I'll be kind. But if you have a friend with a dog that has nails too long, share this. Maybe walk them through it. Have a friend and say, hey, let's try this and see what it feels like. And have the person describe for you how that feels. I think it might be informative and really helpful. And I think the more we are able, let's boil it down. The more we're able to put ourselves in the paws of our dog, to understand how they're feeling, to better communicate with them, I think the better care we're able to take of them. And that's my mission with Big Dog Mom, is to always be providing you information and resources that help you take better care of your big dog. And so to that end, that's what this little demo was for, was just to say, let's just see how it feels. And that may just be all the, the inspiration that we need to say, all right, I am going to take action, and we're not going to do this anymore with the long nails and the constant worry and the frustration and the dog hating it and all of that stuff. So all of that can just sort of end, the drama around nails. And I'm here to help as much as I can. So you just take me up on that. So Lynn says, I didn't even do the exercise, but your perspective makes so much sense. Thank you so much. I appreciate the sweet words. And when you do it, I would love to know what you think. So all of the people that catch this on the replay, do the exercise. It takes 2 seconds. And I would love to hear your thoughts, because it was fun for me when I walked through and taught my kids to do it, and then just to get their little words, right? The little children's way of describing. And it was eye-opening. So I did, of course, educate them, like, this is what our dogs feel like when their nails are touching the ground, and how uncomfortable that would feel. So anyway, I won't belabor it. I feel like I'm just yapping away. So you guys let me know what additional questions you have, what resources you feel like would be helpful for you. If you are somebody that is struggling with nails, I'm here to be a resource and to help you. I am developing the online course, which will be out very, very soon. So, and that I know will help you. But in the meantime, you just let me know what resources, information, anything you need, and I am here for sure to help. Pop it in the comments below. Again, the link to the full blog post is in the comments. So I absolutely would love for you to read through that, because that's all of the real information. And then there's a bunch of links to other resources that will be helpful, and all of the work that I've done on dog nails specifically. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. I did say happy, thank you, Len. Yeah, it's coming very soon. So I have been literally working around the clock. There's no day off, even Good Friday and likely Easter. It's a very sad day. I will tell you, and I will probably clip this out and not put this on YouTube, but I'm going to just tell you guys, because it's a hysterical story. So for the few people that are popping on, so my son is 9. And maybe if you have children, I won't say anything, but my son yesterday in the car said, so I really need to, so we're talking about, so this was yesterday and the kids are off school today for Good Friday. And my son said, oh, I really need to hurry up and get my list done for the Easter Bunny. And I was like, no, we don't do lists for the Easter Bunny. He's like, oh yeah, I did last year, and the Easter Bunny brought what I wanted. So I was just like, yeah, I don't know if the Easter Bunny is going to collect lists this year. So that's a total aside that has nothing to do with dog nails, but a hysterical little, if you have a 9-year-old boy, you would totally appreciate that. Funny story. But I just told him, yeah, I don't know if the Easter Bunny does list anymore. And I went on to say, so what is Easter? Easter isn't about the Easter baskets and the eggs and the money that's in the eggs. That's not what Easter's about. So let's talk about what Easter's actually about. So it was a funny conversation, but the fact that he just needed to get his list ready. Oh, he's a planner too, which is so funny. He would have been literally, if I let him, and I may still find a list. Knowing him, I may still find a list, some like under his pillow or something. I wouldn't put it past him, but yeah, he's now connected. So we talk about classical conditioning. He's now connected. So I just have to write this list of all these things that I want. And then voila, they appear. Some magical Easter Bunny comes and brings me my whatever it was. So anyway, funny story. I hope that you guys have an amazing Easter. I really do. I know that many of you are hopefully off work today. Lynn, you're working today. But if you are off work today, have a wonderful, wonderful day off, relax, and a wonderful Easter as well. So we will be back here, same time. So I've been varying the time, quite honestly. So we were doing 10 o'clock in the morning the last 2 weeks, so the kids had a half day. So I have to bump them up just a little bit, and my daughter had an orthodontist appointment today. So I'm trying to do this while they are at the orthodontist appointment. So I have to finagle just a little bit. Hope that's okay. But anyway, next week, It'll be either 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So maybe let me know if you have a preference one or the other, and I'll try to accommodate. All right, guys, that's it. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much for joining. I hope this was helpful. Comment what questions you have, and let me know. I still want to know when you do this, what your thoughts are, what your sense is, where do you feel that pressure, and let's have a conversation about it. So anyway, have a wonderful weekend. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.